Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how it's possible that dumbass politicians, when they start their political careers, and then you look at them 5 or even 10 years after they've started their careers, and they're still just as dumb as when they began. Now, I can kind of understand that when you're done when you start out, I get that, but given access to all that information, all those helpers, all those advisors, policymakers, NGOs coming in with we'll help you write the policy, and serving on all those committees again with even more research assistants and helpers, all that legislation to wade through and read, all that policy development committees that you're on, you'd think that your mind would broaden and your capacity for detail and understanding complexity, and also understanding one's responsibility in as a representative in a parliament or a Congress, that you would at least start talking with a greater reverence to IQ points. But this isn't the case. Now, if and I'll use Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as an example. It used to be Alex Cortez until his political expedience to be Alexandria, but with the whalers and everything like that. But she now she was. Let's get some perspective here. She's got some affirmative action bullshit degree from a nobody fails college. She's clearly not very bright, and the only job she can land is a part-time, not even a full-time, but a part-time barmaid. So she just works in a bar. She's actually quite photogenic, I think, from certain angles. It depends, but I think she's quite photogenic. Now, she's fairly young. I think she was, 27 or something like that, 28 or something around there when she got selected and chosen, and the forces behind her that were putting her into Congress, saying she could never have done any of that on her own or even dreamed of it or conceived that she was just the flunky they put out front. Now, there is a preference for stupid people when forces that come along with big money and they're wanting to stack the deck and effectively rig the election. They like the idea, well, the electorate is so dumb and stupid that we need somebody dumb and stupid who they can identify with, and then they'll vote for that dumb and stupid person, and we can put them in Congress, then we control them, and therefore we control the political process. So we shouldn't ignore the wider cynicism of this whole process. But when I first heard Cortez, the Ocasio-Cortez speaking, there's no way anyone's going to fucking vote for a moron like that. But not only did she win, but she won handsomely. Shows how wrong I was. But I listened to her and I thought, she's so stupid. And she sounded like a 14-year-old schoolgirl when she talks. Now, given her sole appreciation of the wider world was just being a punk-ass affirmative action kid at college, and then working as behind a bar, she's hardly got a breadth of experience or personal responsibility, living with her folks and all this sort of thing. So she's never actually had a responsible day of anything in her life, from what I could gather, and certainly her schoolgirl type behavior and utterances and mannerisms and hair flicks and the social media posts of her putting on makeup. I mean, she seriously, I thought she can't be a day over 14. She's physically older than that, and intellectually she's got to be 14, and even then not a very bright 14-year-old. Nonetheless, she's in the federal parliament, or the Congress of the United States, so my feeling was, well, look, okay, she hasn't been exposed to many things in life. She hasn't had to take responsibility, hasn't had to make decisions and be accountable for them. And so, but given that she's now got a responsible role in Congress, then the federal Congress, then she'll grow as a person, and she'll obviously commit herself and apply herself to being a better political representative, to understanding the issues more keenly and more clearly, and to broadening her mind, increasing her IQ points, and given she's got access to all this help and support and everything, that she's got a great opportunity here to really become not an intellectually dominant force, I don't mean that, but to become a much more informed, better informed person. Again, a representative of the people, for goodness sakes, understanding the issues and getting across the complexity. Now, bear in mind that Ocasio-Cortez, the Democrats, have happily, if not cynically, appointed her to numerous committees where she's supposedly, anyway, reviewing legislation and policy, or indeed, supposedly at least, being part of the team that does the heavy lifting on policy development. Now, policy development, in my mind at least, is something where a politician can really apply themselves. Say, okay, I'm going to achieve a situation of subject mastery. I'm going to fully understand this subject, its intricacies, its ins and outs. Not that you're impervious to advice or anything like that. You've got helpers around you, and you can really come to grips with this policy on whatever area of policy. Come to grips with the policy development and become expert or sufficiently expert in the issues to be able to knowledgeably opine on the area that the policy development is supposed to be covering or that applies to. Now, I haven't seen it. When Ocasio-Cortez comes out with utterances now, and you see her in doing interviews, she sounds just as stupid now as she did the day that she started. Now, she's been in Parliament, I think, or Congress for about 5 years, somewhere around that anyway. And yet she's, again, sounds just as stupid now as the days that I first heard. In fact, I went back to look at an interview that she did even before she got elected, and then looked at an interview that was read like it's less than a week old. And I couldn't tell the difference. I mean, the way she talks is still like a 14-year-old schoolgirl. The way she delivers her points is still like a child. It's still the mind of a child. And so 5 years, and intellectually and even just basic maturity, she appears not to have aged a single day. And that's like, wow, is that even possible? I mean, can you still be as dumb as you were 5 years ago? Now, even as we move through life as people, just experiencing life day after 5 years, we've just got maybe a slightly more sophisticated view of things than we did 5 years previously. When I think of there was a diary, a series of school essays that I did when I was in senior high school. I look at them now, and where it deviates from facts and comes down to sort of personal thoughts and observations, I go, oh, gee whiz, was I that dumb back then? And of course, that was many years ago. I was a kid at high school, but you can see how far you've come since then, the sophistication of thinking. Now, I've never served in a federal parliament or any parliament for that matter. I've only ever been in the private sector, so the experiences I've had have been very different from ones that Ocasio-Cortez has had. But I was surprised to see that she hadn't really come forward at all. Now, there's one where her policy. Now, that doesn't stop Ocasio-Cortez from just vomiting out globalist talking points, which she does, and she doesn't understand what she's saying. She just vomits them out, and I think they want to keep her that way. She's like their little mouse in a cage. They just let her out to squeak on demand, but beyond that, she has no purpose or value to them. Given that she's so incapable of thinking for herself, which is obviously the case, then she's no threat to them, and that makes her more controllable and again more useful to them. So I think that's part of it, and really need a special sort of dumbness, I think, to be able to be selected for that role. And Ocasio-Cortez is one that superbly fits that requirement. Now, there's a difference. If you look at the Rashida Tlaib and the Cori Bush and the fucking Somalian woman, I can't think of the name now. But again, you don't see a whole lot of development there in any of those, but except Tlaib. Now, whereas I don't agree with Tlaib at all. I mean, if you look at her before she was elected and the way that before the forces that control things stuck her into Congress, I mean, again, she wouldn't have had a snowball's chance of winning anything unless they were behind her and putting her in there. But again, unimpressive. I think she, I mean, was it her? Maybe it was Cori Bush. I can't remember now. Like the height of her career was working in a fucking hotel. I mean, this was someone who was going nowhere and would never go anywhere. Has ended up, being a member of a federal parliament. Fuck. If that is an indication of the fall of the West, I don't know what is. But coming back to Tlaib, though, I listened to a speech or a talk. I think she's being interviewed several years ago. I think it was like 6 years ago. And then I listened to one more recently, and you can actually see a difference with her. There is a sophistication of thinking, not huge, by the way. We're not talking IQ of 5 million here. There is a sophistication of thinking now that you didn't see then. So she actually has changed, and you can see it. Does that make her a better legislator or policy developer or a better representative of the people? I don't know. But there is, you can see that noticeable difference, whereas with the others you can't. That does mean Tlaib doesn't just again vomit out the globalist talking points. She does, but when she comes off script, you can see a definite advance in the sophistication of her thinking. What that means, I mean, does it mean that when she's on committee she does heavy lifting on policy? It would suggest she's at least capable of doing it, where I would say Ocasio-Cortez wouldn't in a million years be capable of it. But Tlaib would, in theory, at least would be. So it's not uniform. That just because someone's done when they start doesn't mean they're done when they finish, or done years later. Now there are other. I've known a number of politicians in Australia. There are some that I thought are so moronic I couldn't work out how they could have even been considered for Parliament, let alone would win a seat. There's one. I think there's a guy actually one I was thinking of, and was that we were talking. All he did was utter talking points. That's all he did. He had no comprehension of this, just the talking points. And I was talking to him and realised that he actually didn't have the brain power to go off the script. He was, and he'd been in Parliament for probably longer, closer to 10 years in his case, and yet he was just as stupid the day he finished as the day he started. And I thought the guy pretended to be someone of huge principle, but he was nothing of the sort. But I've noticed this in others that there are a lot of the female politicians. This is particularly the case. They seem to pick people whose the pinnacle of their career would have been working behind a bar or being on the checkout at some bullshit retail shop. They wouldn't have progressed any further than that, and yet they're being selected again because they're stupid and dumb and basic and feral, and that is cynically viewed as the best way to reach the electorate. Is well, we got to get someone who's like them rather than someone who'll lead them. It's someone who'll identify with them, or who they'll identify with. And the stupider they are, the better. And that's really where we're at. And that's a very sad indictment, I think, of the state of the political state of the West today. You've been fantastic today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.